Have you ever wondered why cameras with round lenses produce images that are rectangular? By the end of this video, our aim is for you to understand why, and hopefully we'll learn a little bit about how cameras work along the way.
To capture light and form an image, the first thing you need is a lens, which, just like in the human eye, refracts incoming light. But what is refraction?
Refraction occurs when light travels from one medium, where it has a specific speed, to another, where its speed changes. This causes the light ray to change direction. We can measure the significance of this effect using a refractive index n, equal to the speed of light in a vacuum divided by the speed of light in that specific medium. Since c must be greater than v, the refractive index is always greater than 1. For example, the refractive index of water is 1.333.
We can describe refraction mathematically using Snell's law. n1 sine theta 1 equals n2 times sine theta 2. From this, we can figure out that if n1 is smaller than n2, then theta 1 must be larger than theta 2, as was the case here. In other words, the light bends towards the normal. On the other hand, if the light were to travel into a medium where it can move faster than before, like from glass into air, then light would bend away from the normal. If theta 1 was 0, then regardless of the refractive indices, theta 2 must also be 0, so there would be no change in direction, even if the light speed was actually changing.
In a camera lens, refraction allows us to form a real image. Before SLR cameras were invented, cameras had to have two different paths for light to take. One path would travel straight to the viewfinder, so that the person taking the photo can actually see what they're looking at. The other path was for light to reach the film, which is where the actual picture itself is created. In an SLR camera, however, there's a mirror to project the real image itself onto the viewfinder. When you hit the shutter, the mirror flips and the real image gets projected onto the film so a picture can be taken.
So now that we know a little bit about how cameras work, why do they produce rectangular images when the lens is around? One reason from the past is that rectangular images were easier to hang up on rectangular walls. Also, film came in rectangular strips.
But that's not the only reason why rectangular images are better. Technically, a round lens with a round image sensor does produce a round image, but cameras have always cropped out the edges due to something called chromatic aberration.
Chromatic aberration looks like this. It's only really visible around the edges of the image because this is where light gets refracted through the greatest angle. The reason for this effect is that the lens has different refractive indices for different wavelengths of light. Remember, different wavelengths or frequencies of light correspond to different colors.
For example, for glass, we can empirically construct a graph of refractive index versus wavelength. The differences aren't huge, but they are enough to cause those distortions in the image, which can be a big problem for photographers.
There is some really interesting physics involved in this question, and it gets increasingly complex the more you delve into it. To find out more, just start with the links in the description and see where they take you.